I'm Gary Robinson. I run basically a design and copywriting agency. And for the last 5 years, we've pretty much specialized in helping coaches and course creators sell more coaching programs and online courses. That's really what we do. What I also have is this little side project called Learning Inspire Success, where I try and teach these strategies to people who are maybe just getting started and who just want to get a bit of momentum to get going. So that's the whole point of this. There's nothing to buy today. I'm not going to try and sell you anything, although I will make you an offer at the end, of course, because you want to see how this whole thing comes together. I don't know what your objective is for this, but this is the objective I would like you to take away. Making better offers and making more offers is going to be the most efficient and economical way to sell more online courses and coaching programs. This is not so much about face-to-face selling, like in person. It's more about like how you present your offer. It's basically a copywriting masterclass. So it's helped you planning your offers, what to say, what works and what doesn't work, and what factors work or not. Here's my first offer. Oh God, back in 2010, 11, I was living in Manly Beach, basically running my dream job. I had an outdoor fitness business on the beach most days, training people as a fitness coach, and living in an apartment on the harbour. Everything was good, except I wasn't making any money. I was having a lot of fun and I was living the dream, but I wasn't making any money. To make matters worse, the little apartment we were living in on the harbour had a beautiful view. We could watch the ferries coming and going and like smell the ocean air every day. It was just gorgeous. That apartment was infested with tiny little cockroaches. In fact, the whole building was. So we couldn't even like do anything about that thing. And my missus hated it. She wanted to move. Problem was, I didn't have enough money to move. Now, this isn't one of those rags to riches stories where I was like destitute. I'm just like, you know what? I want to upgrade my lifestyle, but I haven't got enough money to do it. So what I was doing was the workout programs that I was creating for my outdoor fitness, I packaged them up into a little program and I was planning to sell it online, but I hadn't made any sales yet. So this was eventually the offer we put together, but that's what it was at this time. I hadn't made any sales. So I was sitting with my guitar teacher at the time who had an online business. And he said, like, Gary, you're never going to get this off the ground unless you have an offer that converts. And I'd already put the offer, what I thought was my offer, in front of a couple of hundred people. Nobody bought it. So he explained to me what I'm going to explain to you next, which is that it's all about the numbers and you've got to focus, like obsess about your offer. That's the one thing that's going to help you grow your business. So, okay, in doing that, so like, how do I create an offer? I knew nothing about this. So he said, well, look, I've done a bit of online stuff. Why don't you let me write your offer for you? Or write the words that I go on your website. I was like, sure. I was paying him $50 an hour at a time. He's like, oh, it'll be a few $1,000s. I think he charged me like $4,000, I want to say. I was like, I haven't got that sort of money. So I had to go home, tell the missus, right, if we want to get out of this apartment, we're gonna pay Heath $4,000 and he's gonna write the words to my website and that's gonna be off and running. So I had that decision to make. Luckily we did, we scraped the money together and we bought it. And thank goodness we did, because without it, I wouldn't have gone on that journey to get that website or that offer that you're looking at there, because out of the gate, it just started. That's the thing. I mean, when you're getting going, if you don't know how to do this, you could spend years learning it, or just, find somebody who knows how to do it and then hire them to do it. But of course, you might not have the money. So that's why I'm trying to teach you some things today. So I tell you that just to put that idea in your head, that without an offer, you haven't really got a business. So having said that, what you'll hear is there'll be 3 ways to grow a business. I believe this for ages. And they'll tell you, you can get more clients, you can charge more money, or you can increase the frequency, like sell more to the same people. So it's like, I thought, let's have a little look at that and see if that holds up. So let's say you have 10 clients and you're selling a coaching program for $1,000 a month, and you can run these numbers yourself if you like. You're going to be making 120 grand a year. That was my first goal. I just wanted to make $10,000 a month. This is how I thought I was going to do it. I was going to have customers rather than clients, which meant more transactions, but you get the idea, because I want to keep the numbers the same. Let's say you need 100 leads to get those 10 clients. 3 ways you can grow your business. The first thing is to increase the frequency. So if we increase the frequency by 10% and make it like every 28 days, that would be like 1 extra sale per year. That would give you 130K. You could increase your price. Let's increase it by 10% to $1,100. That would give you 132K. Or you increase your clients, like add 10%. That would be 11 clients. If all the other numbers stayed the same, you'd be 32 grand a year. However, the only way to increase your clients is to put more leads in. So let's say you need 110 leads. That's plus 10%. So you see how, like, to grow your business, you're putting 10% in to get 10% out. But here's why that's a problem. Whatever you put in equals whatever you put out. So if you put more in, you get more out. And this is how you grow your business. More in, more out. The problem is, as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, the profit margins get smaller and smaller. So it's more effort to make a bigger circle, and the outcome isn't all that much bigger. So the more you grow, the lower your profit margin. So while it's not bad advice to grow a business, it's not good advice for like an online business, like an online course creator or a coach who are really running practices. And there's kind of a difference, because a business, you're growing staff, you're growing, you're buying products, costs of goods sold, all of these factors that would basically put you out of business if you try to do it that way. So what I learned really early on, almost not deliberately, is that there's only one way to scale a business, and that's to obsess about the conversions. So if you look at the example we had before, we were getting 100 leads, the conversion was 10%, and I'm just making these numbers up to be, to make the math work. It's going to use 10 clients. We were selling them at $1,000 a month, and that makes, what did we say, 120 grand. Okay, decent growth for starting out. Now, all of those factors, increasing those factors, the clients, the price, the frequency, 10% more in equals 10% more out. But look what happens if you increase your conversions by 1%. That means you're going to make 11 clients. Same amount of leads, you're just going to get 10% of 100, 11% of 100 is now 11. Same price, you're going to get $132,000. So you got to think, like, what would be easier? Getting 10 more leads, adding 10% of my prices, and like going to your clients and saying I'm putting my prices up, or trying to get them to buy more, especially if it's a coaching program and that's the only thing you sell. Or you focus on your conversions, increase them by 1%. And here's where it gets like a little bit crazy, because if you can increase your conversions by 10%, and that was now 20%, you'd have 20 clients paying $1,000 a month. That's 240 grand a year. So that's a double your business type change just by focusing on the conversions. So increasing the conversions by 10% would double your business. That's not growing your business, that's scaling your business. So you put a tiny little bit in and you get a much bigger lump out. So by 8 years, I obsessed on conversions until that offer converted, to the point where it was very, very profitable. Hopefully you get the idea that focusing on an offer is going to be the most efficient way to grow your business, like I said at the beginning. How do we increase the conversions? Well, if we want to make more sales, there's going to be 3 problems that we're going to run into. First is going to be apathy. How do we get people to notice the offer even and care about it without being obnoxious and doing all the kind of snarky stuff, the clickbait, all the nonsense that you see people going? We don't like doing that. The second obstacle we're going to run into is just skepticism. People are going to think this doesn't work, it's salesy, the guy's being a bit pushy. I'll look at the offer, but then I don't want to read it because I don't think it'll work, or I don't think it'll work for me. And then the last obstacle is going to be procrastination. So I'm going to give you some tools here that I've learned over the years to help you overcome these obstacles, and then put together the 3 main parts of the offer that's going to help you convert more prospects into clients and make more sales. So the way to overcome apathy is to get people to pay attention. So let's draw in there. That's the first thing we want to do. I'm going to show you how I did that with my offer. To overcome skepticism, we just want to make sure people read the offer. They're going to invest time. It's like there's 3 transactions you have to make before anybody makes the sale. Attention is probably the most valuable currency we have, especially when you're like dealing with the internet and on social media. So if you can get someone to pay attention, then you've got to try and get them to invest the time, and only then can you get them to the point where they can make a decision whether or not they want to buy and whether or not we want to buy now. So we've got these three big obstacles, and by far the biggest one is apathy. People just don't care. Getting people to notice your offer in the first place without being aggressive and without being really obnoxious and pushy and salesy is just a big problem. This was the first opportunity I had that made me realize like how important getting attention was. My third program, where I was just about to launch, and by this time I think I was pretty much doing this full time. I had sold my fitness business. All I was doing was selling these workout programs to other outdoor fitness trainers. Tiny niche. But this is the lesson I learned from launching this program. My email open rates at the time were about 25 to 30%. I was sending out weekly newsletters, maybe monthly newsletters at that time, but I was sending out newsletters. 25 to 30% of people were opening their emails, but that didn't mean that 75% of my mailing list was not opening any mails. It was like everybody opened 1 in 5 emails, or everybody opened 1 in 4 emails, something like that. If I wanted to get the message to everybody, I'd have to send probably 5 emails to make sure everybody saw it. And if I wanted to send the message 3 times, it's like 15 emails. Kind of obnoxious, right? Like to be blasting your mailing list, which was, was only small. It was a few thousand people at the time. I didn't want to be blasting the email list 15 times because that's how many people I was missing out. So I realized it doesn't matter how good your offer is, if you can't get people to see it or read it or invest the time to look at it, the sale's over before it's even made. I was reading a book by John Caples called Tested Advertising Methods. You've got to read that book if you're thinking about doing any sort of online marketing or sales. John Caples, Tested Advertising Methods, and he'd done a whole bunch of tests back in the 20th century about what part of the offer makes the most difference. And he said the headline or the opening bit, so you imagine like above the fold of your website, your subject heading in an email, the headline of your social media post, whatever that is, that can make up to an 8 times more difference than the content of the mail. So in other words, like if nobody even sees your message or pays attention to it, this is the apathy, then they're not going to read it. Your sales dead. So you're not making sales because people are rejecting your offer or even because they think you're too pushy. Your sales gone because they don't even read your offer. So the big thing here, and this is 80% of the whole thing really, is to make sure that you make it relevant and you captivate people enough that they actually want to read your message in the first place. So perfect for Karen this. Here's how you do that. To get people to pay attention, there's a few ingredients that we need. The first thing is specific person. So let's say persona. He basically said a good offer is basically a believable promise to the right audience. So you got to get the right audience. With my bootcamp workout idea, with that program, I knew that probably 20% of the list I had at the time were buyers. So I thought, well, if I only send the offer to buyers, that's going to make the open rate much higher. In fact, the open rate would be more like it was between 50 and 80% when I sent the offers to the buyers. But still, 50% to 80% is a massive gap. And it turned out that some headlines that we were using got a 50% response rate, and some headlines got an 80% response rate. So we had to pick the headline that won. That's why it says they're training the ring. That was the headline that got the 80% response rate. So we sent the emails to, I put little segments of 100 out of the buyers. I think I had about 1,000 buyers at the time. Sent all the headings to the same different little segments of buyers. Got the headline that won, the train in the rain, and then I sent that to the rest of the list. So I knew that way more people would see my offer then because I'm sending it to the right people. Everyone on my list were outdoor personal trainers, but the headline was the thing that got them to open. And then overall, the big campaign at the end of it all, the open rates were 50-something% for the general list. If you double your open rate on your emails, or if you double the amount of people who will actually pay attention to your offer, you'll get more people to see it, and then you'll get more. So 2 things that'll make them pay attention. So that train in the rain headline, there's a bit of science to how you create headlines, but there's really only 2 things you need to know. To get people to pay attention, you need to talk about the pain they are in. And like John Caples said, you need to make a believable promise. So the perfect combination to get someone to pay attention is really to have somebody who you know is already interested, speak to their pain and promise to cure it. Train in the rain I didn't know it at the time, but now when you look in hindsight, Train in the Rain was such a perfect headline, because not being able to train in the rain if you're an outdoor personal trainer costs you money. So like, it was really appealing. Like, yes, they automatically connected with that. So twice as many people saw my offer, everything else being the same, twice as many people bought that program. So that's how I doubled my conversions. It went from, and at the time, I have to tell you, the high converting offer was still only converting at about 2%. But doing that, changing that for that particular program, doubled the conversion of it. So automatically, I doubled my revenue for that particular product. So, that was the big thing. If you learn nothing else today, focus on the headline or the above fold section of your offer, and that is going to be the thing that'll make the biggest difference. According to John Cable's, up to 8 times difference you can make. So here's the lesson number 1. If you want to get prospects to pay attention without being obnoxious and sending like 15 social media posts a day or 15 emails a week, captivate them. Okay, so we'll put in, this is your righty downy. I can write it in green. Captivate. That means basically get them to pay attention and then hold their attention so they actually read your offer. That's the first thing to focus on. If you can double your conversions, or even just add 1% to your conversions, just by getting twice as many people to read the offer than you would normally, then you've already you've doubled your income. So hopefully that's useful. Great, I'm going all right here. I got twice as many people to start opening my emails, and I did that every time now. Every time I wanted to launch a new program, I would do that. I'd segment the list into buyers. I'd segment it into about maybe 5 or 6 different headlines that I thought would work. I'd send 5 or 6 batches of emails, get the headline that worked best, and then send it out to my entire list. So here's the story I want to tell you about. Fascinating, and making it, getting people to read your offer or watch your offer or invest time on an event like this. So this time in my little my publishing business, I was publishing my workout programs. I'm definitely full-time by this time. I'd sold my fitness business, but the next problem was sort of engagement. So sending out my monthly newsletters, people were loving them. I was sending them to blog posts. They were reading the blog posts, and I had a tool called Crazy Egg, which would show me how much of the page would get read or how much of the email would get read, where people scrolled back. And it was great. So I could see people were really engaging with the content, but when I sent an offer, even though I got them to open it, they wouldn't read the offer. They'd be like, it's too salesy, right? I'm out. I mean, I don't know if they said that, but I just imagined them going, oh, this is a sales pitch. I'm not going to read it. So they wouldn't even get down to the bit where I could make the offer that would do them some good. I knew people engaged with the content. How do I get them to engage with my pitch? So it's kind of pretty obvious now in hindsight. What I did was I started putting useful bits of content into the sales offer. And the most useful piece of content I had at the time was this. I had this PTI tips, physical trainer instructor tips. And I'd say, I'd call out all the silly things that trainers would do that would sabotage their success in these posts. And then I would just tell them what they should do instead. So there was all these myths, mistakes, misconceptions that was being perpetuated. And it's a fitness industry, right? There's loads of myths and stupid stuff that people say that isn't actually true. And when I was publishing and calling out all this bullshit, they were the most engaging emails. They were the most engaging blog posts. So I just started putting all of these things into my offers. And then again, I read, in hindsight, it's wonderful. I read a book called Scientific Advertising Methods. Who was that by? Claude Hopkins. I know that, written in the 1920s or something insane. But the point is, all of this stuff that I now know to be true was tested last century with the direct response mail marketing guys. So yes, of course, making your content worth reading, making your offers worth reading so that people will read it even if they buy or they don't was the thing to do. So the best type of content for selling information products, which were training programs, online courses, coaching programs, is just calling out the sort of silly stuff people do and making the offer worth reading or making the offer valuable in itself. So it's a useful piece of information. So there's 3 things that are ingredients, I guess, you need if you're going to be boosting your conversions in this part versus proof. And I love putting proof straight below directly below the headline or directly below the hero section of the piece. So you put here's your big promise or your pain promise thing, your captivating thing, and then put proof that it works straight away. Proof can be, actual evidence that it works, or it can be like a great endorsement, or it could just be like, a bit of empathy, your story, how I know this sort of stuff. And then we go into the next section. I just like to call it pitfalls. And that's all the sort of myths, mistakes, and misconceptions people fall into, not their fault, but that's what sabotages their success. So, for example, being pushy and being salesy is going to affect your conversions, right? Being not capturing attention or getting people to ignore your offer is going to affect your conversions. It's not so much a mistake, but it's the things you do, like being obnoxious, sending a million emails out, spamming Facebook with offers. It's like all of these are pitfalls, but they lead to the problems. And often when you diagnose the real problem that someone has, they're kind of more likely to, either find the information useful because they can do something about it, but then they're more likely to believe you. So I can sit here and say, hey, you know what? Shouting louder than everybody else is not going to help you get attention, but making a believable promise to the right audience, you could whisper it and you'd still get their attention. So just like flipping the misconceptions and things. So we do that with just by revealing the truth. So call that principles. Teaching some principles, just like what I'm doing here, doesn't have to be big, it can be little things. And then the payoffs are following those principles. So really, if you think about this particular session, what I'm doing now is you're investing time and I'm giving you proof that this works. I'm explaining you what some of the common pitfalls are and what problems that leads to. And then I'm giving you some principles, like some ideas that you can do to address that, and also the benefit of doing that. So let's go back to my 7 mistakes type offer. The next offer that I put out was much longer. So the emails I was sending out maybe had about 400 words to sell a $100 training program. So the equivalent of an online course these days, right? Suddenly the email was, I don't know, it was like 1,000, 1,400 words, something like that. And I thought no one's going to read it. But then when I looked at the Crazy Egg stats, when you send it to the right market with the right promise, believable promise to the right audience, people read it. Well, more people read it. So twice as many people read it. Not exactly twice as many, but let's say twice as many people. I doubled my conversions now from 2% to 4% with the attention piece. Now I'm up to like 8% conversions just by making the offers valuable enough to be useful in the first place. So if we're saying the first rule is to get them to pay attention, captivate, let's call this one fascinate. People were fascinated by those 7 mistakes ideas. So you can do the same in your sales offers. Just call out the things that are not working and why they're not working. That gives you a little bit of authority, and that makes more people likely to go down and believe you. There are only really 2 reasons why we do anything, and that's to avoid pain or to get pleasure. So it's either move away from and move towards. And if you read a lot of the literature about high converting copy, half the people would say away from motivation works better, and half the people say towards motivation works better. I don't know. I've tested both and I've gotten mixed results. And I think what it comes down to is what's the right offer at the right time for the right audience. So what's the believable promise? I think it doesn't matter whether you use away from pain or towards promise. It just depends on the context of the offer and what's going to be more valuable. When you're selling information products, you've got to be careful not to give away too much. You can't be coaching on your video call or webinar or whatever. But if you can teach people what to want, like in terms of, if you can just say, hey, look, you're getting this negative result that you don't want. It's not your fault. It's because you bought into this myth or whatever. Here's the truth. That's not actually, you're just empowering them and giving them a belief that this will actually work for them. So you're teaching them that what I want. It's still useful because now you've got a belief that Now you've got a belief that you can do this. And hopefully by the end, you'll have some belief that if you can get someone to pay attention, and now you know how to do that, get them to invest time, and then I'll show you some tactics that'll help them to buy now, then your conversions could double again. And that's how I basically got my bootcamp workout ideas offer up to about 12% in the end. Started off at 2. I didn't try getting more leads. I just kept the lead generation the same. I just increased the conversions so that I could grow faster. Let's quickly jump into the last bit, is how to get people to buy now. I don't really like the story, but it demonstrates perfectly the importance of timing and making your offers. I'd gone 2012, so very early into my online publishing days. 2012, like when you think about it, it was so difficult to even sell things online in 2012. But anyway, I'd gone home for Christmas. It was going to be a busy time, except for Boxing Day and the next day. I knew I was going to be quiet. Now, I'd switched off all the ads. I'd switched off sending emails because I was my own support desk. And if anybody had any queries, I like to respond to them within 24 hours. I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that, except for 2 days out of the 2-week period. So I set everything up to run a sale, like time sensitive for 2 days only. And if anyone is here from the UK, you know what Boxing Day, everybody rushes to the store. There's always this Boxing Day sale on. So I called it a Christmas sale. I made more money in those 2 days in 2012 than I'd made in the whole year previously. And I believe it wasn't to do with the fact that it was budget or cheap, because the offer wasn't for any less money. It was the same price. I basically just bundled 2 programs in for the price of 1. It didn't cost me any more to fulfill that order, but the amount of people who ordered that, it was crazy. I had a little PayPal app on my phone. It was just binging all day. My dad's like, what's going on? And at the end of it, I counted up all the sales at the end of it. Wow. Anyway, the whole point was time sensitive. Timing, creating an opportunity for people to buy that one time, good for so many reasons, especially for the people who don't like feeling rejected. And coaches in particular, you feel like sometimes we're selling ourselves, you're like, and if someone says no, they're almost like they're saying no to you. They're rejecting us personally. Whereas I think if you make them an offer, like, here, would you like this offer? Would you like this program I've made? If they say no to that, it feels a little bit less detached, and I'm a bit more comfortable about people rejecting my offer. But if you add a time component to your offer, then you've created an opportunity, and that's 1 step detached away from your offer and 2 steps detached from you. So all you can say no to now is the opportunity. So you're not rejecting the offer even. You're just rejecting the offer at this point in time. So the offer I'm going to make in a couple of minutes is going to be, do you want to do this now? And if you don't want to do this now, you can always do it later. Maybe. The point is, timing was so important. And everybody talks about urgency and scarcity, but don't underestimate it. Giving people a reason to buy now was huge, more than doubled the conversions for that particular offer. I'd never seen an offer work so well. So I did it again 6 months later, and I had an anniversary sale, and same thing. Now, I'm not saying have sales, not at all, unsustainable, and you never want to discount a service, but I was selling a product. So maybe you have a sale for an online course, but I'm going to show you a few tactics that are way better than having a sale. So let me fill that in quickly on the map. What's the first thing? Having a good plan was the thing, making it really easy. Let's put in plan. A lot of coaches make the thing hard to sell, I think, because subconsciously they fear being rejected. But you can make it easy to buy rather than making it hard to sell. And a little plan will be the easiest way to do that. A plan on an online course could just be a buy now button. Here's how to buy it, and then have an image of what it looks like to buy. Step 1, go to the order form. Step 2, fill it in. Step 3, put your payment details in. And while that sounds like you might be condescending, spelling it out, making it really easy to buy, just seems to increase conversion. So don't underestimate here's the process. If it's a discovery call, here's what we're going to do next. We're going to do a strategy session. And then at the end of the strategy session, if we're a good fit, we're going to do the paperwork and we're going to sign a contract. So just tell them in future pace, but no more than 3 steps. 1 step's better. Buy now. And then the next thing you're going to have to head off is the price. Now, price is a really good motivator to get people to buy now. And not from the point of view of having a sale, just by positioning your price against something that they can reference. So coaches, we're not a commodity. There's nothing they can compare us to. So one life coach is not the same as another life coach. It really is different. We've got different things they bring to the game. So when you can't compare on price, we have to justify the fee and compare it to either not doing something or another way of getting the same result. So another way of getting your offer to convert would be to go out and hire a copywriter. It could cost you tens of thousands of dollars, and good copywriters don't even work for money. They work for revenue share. So a good copywriter will ask for a percentage of the money you make off the offer. If you're going on to Fiverr and paying $50 to get someone to write your copy for you, you're probably not going to get enough of that converts. You need a copywriter who knows what they're doing. The middle ones are going to be expensive, and the really top end ones are going to want part of your business. So probably best that you learn how to do this yourself. I'm using that as a sort of, here's how to anchor the price for what copywriting is worth to you, or what an offer that converts is worth to you. Other things with price is that, yes, it's too expensive. So explain why they cannot compare. Too risky, if you can put a guarantee on, that definitely increases conversions by a minuscule amount, maybe 0.5%. A guarantee would make a difference, but it does make a difference. What's another thing? You can use price to say why it's too hard. So you can include bonuses in your package that'll make it easy for them to get the result. And that's valuable. That's all part of the price. So price is a huge factor in getting people to buy now. Don't like try and hide it or uncover it, like make it out there, make it a feature. And then finally, like urgency and scarcity, I like to call this, there's always consequences. So just spell out what the penalty is. What can be lost if you reject this opportunity right now? So if you reject the offer, I'm going to make you in a minute, then you might not get the opportunity to see what a good sales offer looks like. You might not get the opportunity to do some work together on your sales offer. We're going to make the consequences clear, but also make it clear what can be won. And because this is at the end of your offer, you can remind people what you've already promised them. So having a penalty and having a prize is like gives them agency in the decision. It's useful to have a choice when you're making a decision. So the way I see it, you can do two things. You can do nothing and ignore this opportunity and have your offer converting exactly the same it is now, or you could accept my offer and maybe look at what a high converting sales offer looks like and then copy that and make it work in your business and potentially double your revenue just by making a 10% increase in your sales. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead, but that's the big picture of all the little tactics around the outside there that you can use to fit into the three strategies. Now, I don't have time to go into all the details of how you would use pain, for example, to get to write a headline, or how you would write a headline that would captivate people, or how I use the pitfalls and the principles and things, but I can show you that if you want. Just hit me up on LinkedIn. So finish this off. Where will we be up to? Yeah, fascinate. We've got another cute word for this one. To get prospects to buy now without feeling rejection, you've got to give them an offer that they can say yes or no to, so then they can only reject your offer, and then add a time component that they can reject at that time. So they're only rejecting the opportunity, not even your offer. You can make the same offer in a few months' time and they might accept it. So it's that, motivate people to act now. So there's only 3 words you need to remember from the whole thing if you want to sell more coaching programs. Captivate, get them to pay attention. Fascinate, get them to invest time. And then motivate, give them a reason to take action. Investing time was all about making the offer useful. So you could also use relevant, useful, and timely in the same way. If you want to see an example of an offer that converts really well, here's a little headline of an offer. Give me 2 weeks. In 2 weeks' time, I will help you create your sales offer that will convert more prospects into paying clients than your current one does. I guarantee it. I guarantee I can make your offer convert better than what it does currently. So think about that. Think about if I could make your offer 1% better, how much it would add to your revenue, and think about whether or not you want to see what that offer looks like. What about if I made your offer convert 10% better? Well, we know it's going to double your revenue. So have a think about what that would do to your business. Now, if you haven't made any sales at all, like I was back in 2012, I realize that you're probably going to be taking a gamble, but it won't do you any harm to see what the offer looks like. Thank you for everyone who's invested the time today.